Okay, we're going to go ahead and start sewing our 5/8 inch seam, which is our center back seam of our bodice back. Again, take your time. I know I've said it a few times. Also, with this type of material, don't iron. I think you'll just have nothing but a heartache if you try to iron. So stay away from the ironing board. It's not going to make any difference. You can actually finger press, use your weight of your hand to open up a seam if you feel like it needs it, or just to give it a more flat look. Okay, now we've sewn our back center seam. We're going to go ahead and make our casing for our elastic. That's going to help bring it snug into the back of each of the girls. So you'll have a 3/4 inch or 5/8 inch, 3/4 inch. We're going to give you the elastic. So this is a 3/4 inch wide non-roll elastic. So each of you will be getting a section of this that you'll use in your back bodice piece. This is a size 12, so we're going to, according to the pattern instructions, we are going to cut 12¼ inches of our elastic. I've already measured it, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it. We'll come back to that later. Now we're going to get ready to make our casing. Normally I would have you do more steps than what we're going to be doing, but because we're trying to make this simple and not as bulky, we are going to go ahead and just turn it down once from our top edge of our bodice back. Again, notice that there's little notches on either side of the center back seam. That indicates that's the top where the casing is going to be made. That's the top of your bodice back. You don't want to do the other end or you'll be in trouble. So we're going to go ahead and measure and pin our casing. I like to start here at the center back seam so I can keep that open, and then we're going to turn that down 1 inch. If you have a seam gauge or even a ruler, go to your 1 inch marking, and you're going to measure from the top of the fold to the 1 inch marking where the bottom edge of the casing will rest. And then I like to put a pin right there to keep that center back seam open. Then go ahead and go to either side, measure your 1 inch, and then go ahead and put another pin. If you notice, I'm pinning right along where you're going to be sewing, right along the bottom edge. Don't pin up here, pin right along the bottom edge. I'm going to go to the other side, put another pin from the fold to the bottom edge, and then I just come in and put a few more pins. Again, with this sequined material, with the netting, it makes it a little bit challenging. Okay, the only thing that you've got to be really careful about on this casing, because that elastic's going to go right through there, is you want to make sure it's a big enough space for that elastic to go through. So you don't want to, as you sew, you don't want to come sewing up into the space the elastic needs to go. Make sure you really follow your guideline, which I'll show you, and stitch right along that bottom edge so that elastic will thread right through there. All right, we're ready to sew the casing down. This guideline you're going to use is going to be your presser foot, but it's going to be the inside part of this presser foot. I call it a ski or a toe. It's going to run right along the outside edge here, so it's just going to barely catch. If you need to put a piece of tape on your machine, this is a good time to just go ahead and put your needle in, put a piece of tape right along here, and then your fold can follow that piece of tape. On my machine here, as you can see, there's a little bit of a line. It says 1 inch. I can line that up right here with 1 inch and then stitch all the way down. So we'll go ahead and go. Again, I'm not back stitching. I'm going to just go ahead and sew right along the edge there. Make sure you're catching your casing material here to the wrong side of your skirt back. Might need to help pull it along a little bit there. Take your time, just because of the sequins and all the joy that they bring us. They make us happy because they shine and they're gonna look great up on the stage. Okay, you will find that that little notch there might throw you off. Just keep sewing straight, like the notch isn't even there. It's all gonna be good. And then we'll get ready to thread our elastic through. If you have a better way of doing the elastic insert, go ahead, feel free to do that. Just make sure you got the look on the outside. Okay, you guys are learning with us. That 3/4 inch wide elastic wasn't working with our casing. A lot of it is because of the netting. The sequins were kind of catching on it. Made it a little bit difficult. Wasn't sliding on very well. So we've decided to go to a 1/2 inch wide non-roll elastic. You will each be getting a section of this, and that will make it a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and we've got our safety pin attached, and we're going to go ahead and scrunch it through. When you get close to the other end, we want to pin that down. Right here where that seam is, kind of wiggle that through. And because it was flat open when we sewed that casing down, there shouldn't be any problem. So here we are with the other end. I'm just going to give it a pin there so it doesn't keep going through. And we're going to continue going through our casing, scrunching it through until we get it all the way through. And that's going to be the effect of putting the elastic through the casing. Okay, so we've got our elastic through. I've pinned the elastic on both sides. I've turned it to the right side, as you can see. And we're going to get ready to attach our bodice back piece to our bodice front piece. We're going to do it at the side seams. Get over here where it's a little bit better lighting. All right, so we're going to put right sides together. We're taking our bodice back piece and flipping it right on top of our bodice front piece. We're going to match the top of our bodice back piece to the top of our armhole on the front. And we're going to go ahead and put a pin right there, so when you were to open it, it matches perfectly right there. Once we've done that, then we're going to go ahead and match up our side seams. And remember, we've got that seam on our bodice front where the top bodice front was connected to the bodice front skirt. I like to have that seam go down. So when you pin it, go ahead and pin so that seam on the bodice front right here is going down. And then we're going to continue to pin all the way down. I also like to take my bottom side seam ends. I like to pin that together first, and then I come back and I can do a little stretch if I need to. If it doesn't match perfectly, then we can adjust the length. We can cut off if it doesn't match exactly. But most of the time it will stretch to fit. So kind of use your judgment on that. As far as the length of this top, we may have to make adjustments on that. We're thinking of not doing a hem on the bottom of the tunic or the top, and then we'll just maybe do a costume check and decide on the length of all the tops once the girls have their tops finished except for the length, and make a decision then. So now we've got it pinned on the first side seam. We're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a 5/8 inch seam. Okay, here we are at the top of our side seam. We're still dealing with sequins. Now we have elastic we're going to be going over. So just take your time, do a couple of stitches, and now this is the time I need you to back stitch, because there's going to be extra stress as they move around, sing, dance, whatever. You want to really make sure that seam doesn't come apart. And I think this is the part where you definitely need to back stitch. Just do it slowly. We're doing 5/8. I like to kind of stretch my material from the back and the front when I am sewing knits like this, and there's a little ease in there. That means one's a little bit longer than the other, and that way it will just ease right in. And we're just going to go ahead and do 5/8 all the way down. Okay, we're getting close to the end, and I do want you to also back stitch at the very end of our side seam. Okay, here we are. We've got our one side seam done. Do a little bit of finger pressing if you'd like. Now, this is the part where you want to take it to your child that's going to be wearing this, and you want to put it on them. You want to make sure that it's going to fit nice and snug in the back, and so you want to try it on their body and then see where it's going to fit. If we need to pull the elastic a little bit more, that would be my suggestion. Rather than taking a bigger seam, you want to just pull that elastic in more, because we want the fullness in the rest of the top. So try it on them, put a pin, or just put a pin down here, and then you can pull that to fit their back just right. Once you've done that, then you can go ahead and sew your next side seam. Okay, we're getting ready to do our second side seam. We've made sure that that elastic fits tightly along the back of the performer. And we're going to go ahead, I backstitched at the beginning, and we're doing a 5/8 seam all the way down. And again, you can kind of stretch it as you go. That seam in the front piece can be down. And you are done. Again, let me remind you, we'll be showing you the end product here, that we're thinking of not doing a hem. That can still yet be decided.
On the bottom.
On the bottom. Hem on the bottom. But we'll want to make sure all the lengths of all the tops hit about the same place on each body type. And then we're just doing a little back stitch here. Well, here's the costume finished, the costume top finished. Now you can start singing Under the Sea or any other Little Mermaid song, because you've done a great thing for your child. If you want to double check, make sure all your threads are trimmed. I still have more threads to trim on this. But also you might find it's a little uneven at the side seams, which I realized right here. So if that's the case, you know, scissors can solve that. We're just going to trim that so it matches. I did try to stretch it as I sewed, but there's always imperfections, but you can fix it very easily. So this is the back of our costume. Got a little stretch, got a lot of movement, and then you've got your top with the ties, and they'll be wearing a t-shirt underneath. They're going to look great.